Talking hardball, the bull and the better. Talking hardball, part of betting weekly. Handicappers, they're all in the know.
Welcome into a live edition of Betting Weekly Hardball. I am Doug Kezirian alongside Albert Nguyen, also known as Analytics Capper, and I'm the one to blame. I'm the one that hurt the Monday. On both shows combined, I'm the only one with one loss. It was a baseball loss, but that's okay. Everyone else picked up the slack. I delivered in Betting Weekly Fast Break. And Albert, you've won 6 straight across both programs. Very impressive stuff, and I hope you're seeing the ball well today because, as we like to say, sometimes you're only as good as your last pick.
Yeah, especially in this industry, right? When people are watching and tailing some of your analysis. But yeah, you're right. It's been a great, week and a half or so. But I'm interested to dive into today's slate. There's a couple interesting angles, and I'm excited to talk to you about it.
Yeah, just a reminder to everyone, if you like what you hear on our shows, sign up for the newsletter, get exclusive tips and the free Insider magazine. Sign up for free at bettingweeklystudios.com. So you saw the board well yesterday, had Toronto, the Blue Jays, which broke out the bats and did well in that regard. I was backing on Hunter Green, and he got into a couple jams, came out for the 6th, walked the first batter, and Dave Roberts yanked him. So that happens. We didn't get there, but that's okay. First thing I want to talk about today is the MVP odds in the American League, because we've had a tightening of the race. Cal Raleigh is now even money as the second favorite behind Aaron Judge, whose money has come down to minus 159 as Raleigh has hit 50 dingers yesterday. Monster season for a catcher as well. I mean, that's part of the equation. And Albert, I've gone back and forth. I've talked to some guys who really understand baseball better than I do, and I want to lean on their knowledge and incorporate it with mine, of course. But it's not a home run award, even though this is an MVP award and what Judge does. But the catcher component is part of the equation. Mariners may not get the playoffs, though. That's another factor. How would you assess the betting options right now?
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting discussion. Aaron Judge has been leading this, conversation, this award all season long, and justifiably so. Before he got hurt, he was on a pace to set, amazing records, and he's been on a historic tear the last few seasons. But that injury did slow him down, and I think people and teams are finally smartened up a little bit, Doug. They're not pitching to him as much. For some reason, they kept pitching it to him, even though he was hitting it out of the yard every other at bat. But he's getting less looks now, which makes a lot of sense. When you mentioned the Seattle Mariners in terms of their playoff implications, it's very similar with the Yankees, right? The Yankees, they have an outside shot of missing the playoffs as well. From a record standpoint, they're sitting basically tied with each other, and they're going up face to face, head to head in the wild card matchup. So. To me, it's interesting. I would say Raleigh's, season has been unbelievable. It's not just home runs. He does have 10 more home runs than Aaron Judge, but he has more RBIs, and that's gonna, go back to the opportunity that now Judge doesn't have anymore. Teams are pitching around him. And then, like you mentioned, he's behind a plate on, almost every single game. I think that does amount to something, and it does put this lineup, the Seattle Mariners lineup, in a different tier. They were already pretty good without this 50 home runs in the middle of the lineup in terms of like the talent and the names. But he's definitely catapulted this lineup into, one of the most feared in all of baseball.
It's crazy because he was minus 2,000 or something at some point. Now Riley became the favorite at one point for like a hot second for like a couple days. And then when Judge was expected back from injury, then he took over. And then that was sort of a good sign in that regard. Now, just reminding everyone to join the conversation, get involved. We have a couple comments regarding the MVP in the chat. City by the Bay says Cal deserves MVP. He also likes your shirt, Albert. I was letting the chat get there. I'm all for it. I've worn some crazy stuff, or at least wild stuff. I don't know if crazy is the right word, but I'm all for it. Good stuff. By the way,
Can someone
This is
screenshot
national.
this right now? Nice shirt, Albert. I love that.
Okay,
I am
city
playing.
by day.
I am playing 18 after our show, so that's why I'm in golf attire right now. I guess another thing I wanted to ask you about in terms of the futures market, because you're way more well versed. You've been profitable now for decades regarding long shots and futures and awards. This does the does the price right now really determine the percentage that the books expect them to win, or is it more because they've taken so much Aaron Judge money throughout the season, right, that they have to price it where it's a little more enticing to now bet Raleigh?
So that's a good point. That's a very good question because it's what we like to call a one-way betting market, right? It's a one-way market because it's not a yes, no. There's only one way you can bet Judge or Raleigh, and that's at these current odds. I would say with these types of situations, because you're right, a lot of times these odds makers manage risk. In fact, sometimes their job title is risk manager and not odds maker. And they want to balance their books and they want to reduce liability, things like that, which makes perfect sense. You have a big wager on Judge, you're going to move that down and not take any more money. But it's consistent with the market, with other sports books and things like that. So I don't think it's an isolated situation with Judge. And frankly, bookmakers, for the most part, will tell you that they don't care if people win on a fair price. With those pie charts you see before an NFL kickoff, where it's the Chiefs or whoever, and they have like 97% of the money. If the odds are fair, they don't care. Just like when you walk by a roulette wheel and the whole table has a stack on red. They don't start moving the numbers like, oh, let's make 17 black instead of red. They just let it play out because they know the odds in their favor and they don't want to win every bet. A bookie back in the day told me, I don't want your rent money, I want your FU money, right? They want the people's beer drinking money and stuff. It's recreational money, it's entertainment. So if people win bets, it's fine as long as it was a fair price. And well, where I'm going with this is, you know, books aren't going to sweat Judge at minus 159 or Raleigh. It's like the 50 to 1 where Raleigh was at some point early in the year. They take a couple bets, they're moving that to 20. But, they're not moving it to 49 to 1. They're worried about those huge payouts. And if people win on one of these guys, they're not going to lose sleep because what happens is, and this is important, much like the red on the roulette wheel, they're going to bet the next spin. So as long as it's fair, they want people to win and lose, win and lose. They're going to grind out the cents on the dollar. If people get an Aaron Judge ticket cashed in October, they're going to turn around and bet it on that night's football game, if it's Thursday or Friday or whatever. So it's going to go back in the ecosystem. That's why they give bonuses and they're providing entertainment and they want people to win tickets. They don't want to just win everything. That's no fun. So that's part of the equation with some of the massaging of the prices. You want to stay on market because you don't want to get one-sided action. But yeah, no, sometimes you will have some books offer a certain price. I think a few weeks ago, I was looking at it. One book had the Indiana Fever, maybe 2 weeks ago, at 12 to 1. Another one had them at 25 to 1. So I think that speaks to your point, Albert, because I think that pertains to what the Fever were getting at the beginning of the season with Caitlin Clark stuff.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. I right now, if I had to bet, if I had no, and it's true, I have no, positions on any of these guys right now. I think Judge holds a lot of value, right? Again, I have no positions going into this conversation, but if I did have Judge heading into today, I think Raleigh would be a nice piece just because he's on fire. There's going to be some momentum when it comes to trying to bet someone else. I'm not saying people are fatigued about Aaron Judge, but I think like the Yankee fatigue is real. And so, if Seattle somehow, beats Houston and wins the AL West division, Cal Raleigh is going to be the main reason for that. So that's why I think there's a lot of value with him.
Hey, Adam Osimo says that is a sick shirt. Not going to lie. Hey, I think you're just celebrating the engagement of Travis Kelce
Yes.
and Taylor Swift. So it's really a celebratory mood around here on Betting Weekly Hardball. I woke up to that. And yes, I know it happened within the last hour, but some of us were up till 4 a.m. handicapping and things like that. So, I get my beauty rest. I like to tell people I'm on Hawaii time, right? So that's the sort of my body clock, even though I haven't been to Hawaii in over a decade. I'm still on Hawaii time. So I like to sleep in late, stay up late, things like that. So it's more normal hours for other people in that regard. All right, let's turn the page and break down some games and some potential tickets that will cash today. And just A reminder to get extra value this summer with prop packs exclusively at Bet Rivers. Opt in to the prop packs promotion for your chance to earn profit boosts, bonus credits, and more when you place MLB same game parlays. See the Bet Rivers app for full details and tear into the action. So, some interesting games with the race heating up in a few divisions and things like that. This Phillies Mets series, really compelling. I was leaning Phillies. You were leaning Mets. You were right yesterday. Some of us in the chat as well, like the Mets team total over and the track record of Sanchez against the Mets. And certainly that delivered. The Metropolitans broke out the bat and did a great job. So today it's essentially a pick 'em. Manea on the bump for New York. Luzardo going for Philly. Is that deficit in the NL East is down to 6 games. Now, this is game 2 of a 3-game set. There was 6 games remaining between these two teams. So the Mets not out of it. They just got to make a move and, win 2 out of 3 here, maybe win 3 out of 4 the next series. And then all of a sudden they're in business here. But pick 'em game over under 8.5. The under juiced a little bit to minus 20. I personally cannot back Mania, but I also don't want to bet against this Mets lineup, even though I bet on them this weekend and they burned me. What say you?
Yeah, in terms of this game, Doug, I have no official play on it, but I do lean the Philadelphia Phillies here. And it's exact same reason as you. Sean Manaea used to be a great pitcher, used to have electric stuff, but now I don't think people are feared with him at all. And coming off a game where the Mets had just won, I don't think the value is on New York here. I think the Phillies do tie the series. I'm interested to see who the starters are going to be tomorrow because I expected the Mets to bounce back and win the series. So if they, head to tomorrow 1-1, I'm going to look into a Mets position tomorrow.
All right, good stuff. What about any read on the over under at 8.5?
I would lean the over here. I'm not a buyer of either of these pitchers. I think both lineups are explosive. Really, it takes one swing of the bat, and one team might have 3 or 4 runs before you know it. So I would lean the over here, but again, no real play. I do think it's correlated. If the Phillies are going to win, I think it's going to be very, very high scoring. If the Mets are going to win, I think Manaea is going to pitch above his expectations. So again, not going to have a play on here. I've been successful the last week or so, Doug, just doing 1 or 2 plays a day on the show, and I'm going to kind of continue it moving forward.
I mean, I think there's been a couple times where I've had 3 or even 4, but typically it's 1 or 2 for me as well. D-backs visiting the Brewers. I think this is a compelling matchup because Mizorowski was running away at one point with the National League Rookie of the Year award, and he was lights out, and he was in the All-Star game. But he's been touched up of late, battled some injury as well. He's given up 8 earned in his last 2 starts, including one outing that lasted just an inning in the third. Brewers favored here at home, understandably. They're $1.62. Now, they did win yesterday, but they're still just 4-6 in their last 10 after that 14-game win streak. Have a nice cushion in the Central, but Cubs have closed the gap to 5.5. So here we are, $1.62, run line plus 140 against a D-backs lineup. Then can put up some crooked numbers here and there. Over-unders relatively low at 8, given Miz's performance lately and fat going for Arizona. Any read here?
Yeah, I don't trust the under there. You mentioned it. Miz has been struggling. Not only 8 runs in the last 2 starts, but 11 runs in the last 3 starts, right? So if you even stretch it out further, he hasn't been pitching well. It could be a little rookie wall that he's hitting. He hasn't, gone over 80 pitches in the last 4 games. So he is definitely feeling something, whether it's fatigue, whether it's a rookie wall, or maybe people are figuring him out. But, the stuff that he has, the explosiveness, the ball off his hand, it's hard to sustain that all season long. So it makes sense that he's going to go through ups and downs. With that said, I don't think I can back him. I know, he was a great, pitcher to start the season. He made the All-Star game, which was a little bit of controversy there. Milwaukee's been a great team. I still think Arizona's live, and I think they're live as an underdog, right? I don't like them as a favorite, just like the Golden State Valkyries in the WNBA, but I see a lot of value in this team when they're underdogs. And at this number, I would say the value is on Arizona 100%.
I would think so. And, with with Mizorowski pitching the way he is, I think that's the only way to play it. I will say, you mentioned he's a live dog here. Um, it is National Dog Day, so just giving you, in case that you want to sway you in that direction. Um, you know, just putting it out there in that regard. I am going to make a play. I'm going to play on the over 8. I think too many paths to victory. There's a lot more paths to victory on the over than the under, right? Both lineups, I'm a fan of, all things considered, especially against these particular pitchers. I think 8's relatively cheap number given the situation. And I was betting on Mizorowski earlier in the year when he came up in his second game. I think I was on his over strikeouts prop. I was a believer, but when they show you some of these struggles, you just got to ride with it. Like you said, had injury. There's enough to be interested there. I think this number should be 8.5. So I'm on over 8 minus 120, albeit. Any thoughts there?
No, I like the over look way more than the under, so that makes sense to me. And if I'm leaning Arizona as a live underdog in this play, that means they're going to get to Miz, right? That means their offense is going to collect some hits and most likely manufacture some runs as well. So the over makes a lot of sense to me. I would like the over, even minus 162 on the side. I think that's just very expensive for a struggling pitcher and a team that not really limping to the finish line, Doug, because they're still a great team and they're very well coached. But they have to fall back down to earth, right? We mentioned it yesterday. I think they're 5-5 in their last 10 since that 14-game winning streak. So they're gonna tread water until postseason time, in my opinion.
All right, good stuff as well. The game I've circled today is involving the Cubs. So they're trailing the Brewers by 5.5. Cubs visiting the Giants. Strengthening can happen by the Bay. Cubbies are minus 141 with an over-under of 7.5. Now, Matthew Boyd, one of their studs, because Horton's been unhittable virtually, going with Verlander, going for San Francisco. And Verlander's been a gas can. I thought like a contender may want to pick him up, but frankly, he has not been good enough. And Matthew Boyd did come back. He was pitching well and after one rough outing, and then he's been touched up, including against Milwaukee at Wrigley. He's been okay the previous 2 starts, but it hasn't been vintage Boyd where he was getting a little Cy Young buzz. But I am all about the Cubs today. I mentioned this last week on the show. Giants are terrible against left-handed pitching, literally dead last in so many key offensive categories. I have to lay the $1.41. I'm going to bet both the Cubs on the first 5 and the game. That's really my big play for the day. I do like the Cubbies in this spot. So I'm just going to fade the Giants. I did last week when they were facing a lefty. I'm going to do it again. This team, they're not necessarily going through the motions like some teams that have quit, but I just think the Cubs with Boyd is the right side here.
And I think the Cubs are going to compete with Milwaukee by the end of the season to win that division. They've been the more consistent team. Obviously, Milwaukee has had a couple crazy win streaks, but even through those win streaks, the Cubs are just 5.5 games back. That can be erased in a week. So I think the Cubs, you're right. I think the Cubs are going to continue to play well. And Verlander, at the start of the season, if you look at his first 10 starts or so when he was 0-10 or 1-9, whatever that ridiculous number was, a lot of it was very unlucky. He was still going out there and performing and having quality starts. But if you look at him the last few outings, I think he's going through the motions. Very previous game, 4 innings, 7 earned runs, 7 hits. Game before that, 11 hits, 5 earned runs. I mean, I think he's struggling, and a pitcher with that pedigree and that history and all the mileage that's that he has already performed through, I think it's catching up to him, or he's just not interested, right? He's at a point of his life and of his career that he's interested in titles. He's interested in postseasons. And at this point, the Giants look like they're about to miss the playoffs again. And I don't think we're getting the 100% focused Justin Verlander. Just in the last 5 games, if you want to look at recent history, 0-5, 4.44 ERA, only pitching about 5 innings, averaging 90 pitches each of those games. So I would definitely fade Verlander. There's no way that you can back him at this point. It would be Cubs or nothing at all, or maybe a Cubs team total for me.
All right, so he is 42 years old, so maybe that's some of it. behind the equation. But there are 31 games left for the Cubbies, and I will point out that none are remaining against the Brewers. So if the Cubs are going to have to make this up, they're going to do it against other teams, whether it be within their division or outside of their division. But our chat has some good stuff saying, be careful. There's some good numbers here. Verlander, 2-0, 2.30 ERA lifetime against the Cubs. But again, that could be when he was in much more vintage form, and because he was such an American League pitcher. So it was rare to face the Cubs, all things considered, but good to point that out. Hey, just a reminder, we have a ton of other great content here on the Bet Rivers Network. Betting Weekly game bet match with Nigel and Sean, previewing round 2 in the men's U.S. Open. That was released earlier today. Also released this morning, Betting Weekly Dojo with Nigel and Neil, discussing how to beat sportsbooks with NFL props. So a lot of good angles there. The NFL season just around the corner, just a little over a week away. So certainly want to jump on both of those, content that's been posted. A lot of good stuff, but we're going to continue along here with Betting Weekly Hardball, which is a betting show for baseball bettors. We don't mess around. We dig in deep. Let's keep it out west. The Padres dropped one in Seattle. Nice comeback for the Mariners. And the Pods are now a game back of the Dodgers. So Cease going for San Diego. Castillo going for the Mariners. Coin flip game here. M's bats may have woken up. They were struggling of late. Minus 109 against a Dylan Cease. Not exactly, Cy Young material, but Castillo's been okay. Well, better than okay, but he's not been some of the other guys on this Mariners staff. I know the Padres lineup is good, and we expected a little bit of a flat spot yesterday, just giving off the high of a series against the Dodgers. But I lean M's here. How about you?
Yeah, the Padres are a really hard team to figure out. They're a team that goes on runs, whether they're losing streaks or winning streaks, right? Before this, I think they won 5 straight games, including 2 against the Dodgers. Before that, they lost 3 or 4 in a row. Currently, they're on a 2-game losing streak. I have a feeling they're going to lose one more time before they win another game, just because they're a streaky team. So I would say Mariners are nothing at all. I don't have as much conviction in this game as I did on the Mariners yesterday. I was on the Mariners pre-flop, not on the show, but personally on the pre-flop. And then when they got down, I think 3-1 or 4-1, I live bet the Mariners as well. I just don't believe in the Padres bullpen, and I don't believe on them. I don't believe in San Diego to be able to close out games at this point. So I agree with you. I like Seattle here. I think the value here is on the home team. And Seattle's a really good team, guys. It's not just Raleigh. They have a very deep lineup that have been underperforming if you look at their entire season stats. But, recently they're getting a little bit better, which I think if you're peaking at the right time, which is August, September, October, I think you're going to make some noise in the playoffs.
Understood. I agree with it across the board. So we mentioned the Padres. You got to mention the Dodgers. Kershaw on the bump. And they broke out the bats yesterday. Really cool moment before the game, giving Gavin Lux his World Series ring, the entire team in the stadium, giving him a nice ovation. Lux was part of their future. They let guys like Trey Turner go, Seager go. And it was nice for him to come back to Dodger Stadium, get that warm welcome. He was a piece of the Dodgers World Series run. So behind Kershaw, they're $1.80. I don't know if they figured things out offensively, but they did at least get to Hunter Green. Now Martinez comes in. Much different situation with from a batting standpoint. No, Nick Martinez is okay, but the Dodgers mash righties. Martinez did pitch well in his last game at Anaheim against the Angels. This is a different ask. I think the Dodgers, they get to righties. Like I said it yesterday in the show, it's why I didn't pull the trigger on the Reds, but I did take the green prop. I just thought his gas and everything would be fine, and it was okay. I'm just afraid to bet against the Dodgers, even though they've been so poor. They have like the same record as like the Colorado Rockies since the All-Star break or something ridiculous like that. Now, there's always going to be peaks and valleys in a 162-game baseball season, but not in a rush to lay 180 either.
Yeah, 180 is a very steep price for this team, but we mentioned this on the show last week, Doug. There's something good. There's something up with Clayton Kershaw. Like he found something. I think he turned a corner this season. He's been pitching really well as of late. If you look at his numbers right now, I'm going to pull them up. Last 5 starts, 4-1, sub 3 ERA. He's averaging about 5 2/3, 6 innings per outing. And it's not like he's throwing 95 to 100 pitches like during his peak, but he's up there around the mid 80s. And if you get into the 6th or 7th inning with the offense behind Kershaw, I think you're in a really good spot. And that's something that we've seen with Kershaw starts. If you don't remember, 10 or 12 years ago during his prime, he would have 1 or 2 hits, but then lose the game 1-0, right? His offense was not coming through for him. And it's the complete opposite this season. He's had great offense behind him, and he's taking full advantage of that. Like I mentioned, 4-1 in the last 5 starts. And on the other side, Cincinnati Reds, I actually don't like Nick Martinez at all. I think he throws a really, really straight fastball. And to these lefties right now that are I think they're about to round into form. I know Mookie Betts, just 2 weeks ago, his batting average is 230. He had, I think, 2 or 3 hits last night, another multi-hit game. Now it's up above 250. I think he's rounding into form. We talk about Max Muncy coming back and really elevating this offense. With him, Freeman, and Ohtani hitting from the left side, I think the Reds are in trouble. I like the Dodgers a lot tonight. I don't know if it's a run line type of play, but I'm definitely not going to pay -180 on a money line.
Why is that?
It's just too rich. Like I would love to get it where Kershaw gives like a run early and they're down 1-0, then I could get a better number. But at -180 right now, it means I have to win basically three or four games if they lose just to make it even. And so that's not something from a baseball standpoint right now that I'm willing to do.
I'm always kind of assessing big chalky things. If that's the case, I'm not afraid. Sometimes I would do run line, of course. That's the natural thought process. But just want to at least, glean that wisdom for our viewers because it is interesting. Everyone has different sort of thought process with laying big juice. And City by the Bay letting us know that the Reds are live. Martinez 3-0 in his last 3 starts against the Dodgers. So, but he also recommends stay away from run lines. Everyone has their own philosophy when it comes to this stuff. I will say this season, I feel like I've gotten lucky that whenever I've laid the run line, that team is not every time, but if it loses because they lose outright, not because they win by 1 run exactly. And that's saved me juice in many ways. So sometimes that's, if you're backing a stud pitcher and he sometimes gets touched up, well, then sometimes they just lose the game outright. So it's sometimes it's a better, more advantageous position in that regard. Let's go to the American League. A couple other games that caught my eye. We'll get to the Yankees, but first I want to talk about the Red Sox game. Lucas Giolito at Camden Yards to face the Orioles. Red Sox, slight shock here. Now, they came back, rallied for the win yesterday. This feels like an affordable price behind Giolito, so I think the Red Sox are probably the right side here.
I have no read on this. You mentioned Giolito. He's been pitching a lot better. 4-1 in his last 5 starts, 3.03 ERA, averaging almost 6 innings per outing and close to 100 pitches. So he is your bell cow so far for Boston. And on the road, he's been a little bit better this season than at home. Whereas Baltimore, I mean, it's hard to back this team just because they've been a disappointment, right, all season long. They were my pick heading into the season to win this division. I think they had a lot of talent. Injuries derailed the season. But there's, in my opinion, still a little bit live. I'm not sure if I can bet on them right now. I mean, in their last 10 starts or 10 games, they are right at 500, 5-5. And, if you bet every Orioles game this year at 60 and 71, for $100, you're down about $1,000, right? $922. So they don't really play up to expectations, even though they have the talent. And that's why I'm going to lay off on this game.
Okay. Fair enough. They're obviously a much better home team. I just wanted to throw it out there and see. I feel like I'm going to regret not playing it. That's my gut right now. But, my gut's been wrong. It was almost wrong yesterday because they were down early in that one. So let's go to the Yankees game. Big lineup, big performance from the lineup yesterday. Broke out the bats. They're $1.90 today behind Gil and Mackenzie Gore going for the Nats. I like this Nats team. I've played them recently. They were overwhelmed yesterday. Gil's been getting to me. I've tried to fade him a couple times. Hasn't been the right side. I wonder if the Yankees would break out the bats again and open up a can. I just don't want to pay to see it. And like we touched on, another hefty money line, all things considered.
Yeah, yesterday's game was very interesting. The Yankees were leading 10-0. They were dominating this game in every single facet, and the Nationals were able to put a 5 spot in the top of the ninth. I don't know if that's the momentum that they needed, because I did mention that they're going to be a live team for the rest of this season. There's a lot of young talent on this team that are playing for future contracts. Their pitching isn't great, but their lineup is definitely explosive. I'm again, not an official play, but I definitely lean Washington again in this one. I think that 5 runs in the top of the ninth gave them a little confidence heading into today. And I don't expect the Yankees to do another game where they, score 10 runs. I think this offense, even with all the big names, they get into situations where they struggle pretty often, or they get really streaky. And after a game where they, score 10 runs, I don't expect them to duplicate that again tonight.
Yeah, can't be a prisoner of the moment. We all know the pitfalls of sometimes betting baseball or any sport is just reacting to what you last saw. That should not be the case. Need to be careful. I get it, and like you said, maybe there's carryover momentum from the Nats yesterday. So certainly an option there, and the price could be right too. Right, it's like that's that's a pretty hefty price tag, all things considered, at $1.90. And you always have the option of a run line. That would have been a rocking chair win yesterday, but things did get a little hairy in the ninth. I always take a look at the Rockies games because it's been such a unique season for them and an outlier performance. There's been value betting against them. How about this price? Overnight, it was around 330, 340, 385 for the Astros with Hunter Brown on the bump and Tanner Gordon going for Colorado. This should be an absolute beatdown. But 385, I mean, you got to win 4 out of 5 games in these types of matchups just to break even. Just to break even, that's what you have to do. So I wouldn't bet the Rockies. I'm going to need more than plus 290. They've been somewhat frisky, I guess. I guess not a punching bag, but they're still the Rockies, and it's been a disastrous season. One of the worst front offices in all of sports, as you said earlier this season. They've lost 4 straight. They got swept in Pittsburgh. Now they do have a day off in Houston now, but the Astros are gunning for the division with the M's right on their tails. I can't get involved with Colorado here.
I like Houston here. I'm looking at their side. I'm going to make an official play. If you can help me look up, -2 or -2.5, I think Houston will take care of it today. They matched up about 6 weeks ago, I think early or mid-July, and the Rockies actually beat Houston. So not that there's a revenge angle, not that Houston remembers that game, right? We're talking about the lowly Rockies here, but we're talking about one of the best pitchers, one of the best starters, most consistent starters all season long in Hunter Brown. And Houston, with their trade deadline moves, their offense has been a lot better and getting a lot healthier. I think Houston takes care of business today at -2, -2.5. It's kind of like a KBO run line, right? For those who have bet Korean baseball before, some of those run lines are up to 3.5, just because the discrepancy is so large.
Really? All right. Well, we all remember it from COVID, but the KBO is still on the betting board. Some people are still betting it. Now, I was going to say the run line here, $1.59. So that's no bargain. 2 runs is -127. 2.5 is flat, so plus 100. If you
Give me
expect the
2.5.
bats, what's that?
Give me 2.5 as an official play.
Oh, okay. Look at that.
Yeah.
Wow. Even on dog day, laying the wood against as a favorite and laying the 2.5 runs. I like it. So no celebratory underdogs so far on the show, but you know what? You gotta stay the course. Can't let a holiday infect you. I like what Dave Adams was saying. He's a relatively new name in the chat here. He was talking about laying run lines, things like that. And there's rapid fire here in the chat. I'm trying to scroll and find some comments, but he was saying -1 you could do and things like that. I like these types of wagers. Why not consider the -1 line or the juice rather than taking the 1.5, because you can't lose, right? If they win by 1 versus the 1.5, it does reduce the juice. And if the game script is a certain way, I think that's the most important thing. I think this is what we're all talking about. If the game script goes a certain way, we're expecting a big performance from the Astros lineup, and Hunter Brown to be mowing down Rockies batters.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at -1, a lot of books don't offer that. So that's one of the reasons why I don't say it much on the show. But there's a calculation. You could definitely just Google it, and there's a calculation where you do a percentage of your bet at -1.5, and then percentage at money line, and it equates to exactly the -1.5 line. So you can do that definitely. But for me, if I like a side, and I'm like this in every single sport, and Doug knows this, if I like a side, and if I really love a side, I'm on alternate lines. I'm on first half, first quarter. In this case, first 3 innings, first 5 innings. I'm on team totals. I'm on all of it because I really trust my analysis there. I would say I've gone 5-0 more often on a game than 0-5, right? And so I'm just going to continue to fire that way.
I like it. If you think things are going to go your way, might as well press and try to find a good angle and load up, so to speak. It's not just loading up one bet. You can chop it up, like you said, -1, money line, -2.5, alternate lines. Definitely should be doing some alternate lines in the W lately, the way I've been seeing it. But those are things you can do to multiply your outcome, and it doesn't have to be 50-50. It can be like 10% of your bet on a big money line, like we say. If you're on a +7.5 point dog in basketball or football, you can put 10% on the money line if you think they're live on that. All right, my man, that's going to do it for this show. So we broke down the baseball card. Obviously, we couldn't do every single game, but we definitely touched on the games with our plays. We touched on the AL MVP race, which will certainly have many more twists between now and then. Hey, top of the hour, I just want to remind you, Betting Weekly Fast Break. Sarah is back in after her 5th straight win this calendar month. So she's on a roll. We'll touch on that. Look at both games tonight in the W. Yesterday, we had 2 double-digit dogs, different kind of handicap today. So we'll get into that. Just a reminder, Betting Weekly Hardball every single day this week. A lot of baseball going on, even with football starting. So that's 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific every single weekday. So for Albert Nguyen and everyone else behind the scenes who does all the heavy lifting to make everything look so good, I'm Doug Kezirian. Best of luck with your wagers out there, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.